and a sheriff's going out to terrorize for you. Oi, oi, oi! Stop it, shake it! 2 and 6.
You know, the family, the kids, a dog, a white picket fence in your yard. Well, it turns out that dream is becoming more of a fantasy for many adults coming into the game like myself. The reason why? Perhaps because home prices in 2021 rose by a massive 16.9%, the highest jump ever on record. Back in August, you had Fox News who reported that rent payments are starting to surpass mortgage prices in some of the country's largest cities, including here in Washington, D.C. Business Insider claims that due to student loans and the rising housing prices, some millennials plan to rent forever. So with all this happening, could the American dream be a figment of our imagination? Well, joining us now, I remember, and you came up immediately in our editorial meeting because we said we talked to you for an hour about this in the newsroom. And one of the biggest things that I remember us talking about that you mentioned, many younger people were moving to the inner parts of the country. I just see the other day a commercial from a development company saying, buy land, buy a home, rent it out for 4 times the amount. Basically saying, hey, come with us and, screw over a bunch of people. What say you?
Well, it's interesting, as the late, great George Carlin said, in order to believe, the great thing about the American dream is that you have to be asleep to believe it. When you look at home prices and what's happening across the country today, what you're seeing is, and the reason that the prices are skyrocketing is multiple factors. One is the major issue is the fact that you've got very low interest rates that always makes people want to gobble up homes and make big purchases when the interest rates are down. Two, we have a problem in this country is that we don't have enough homes. We're in a homes deficit right now. There's not that many being built. So you're talking about a very small piece of the pie that everyone's trying to get. That's always going to drive up home prices. And three, you have large, massive Wall Street, big investment equity firms buying up low-cost housing across the country, especially on the coast and in the major cities. And when I talk low-cost housing, I'm talking houses, $200,000 or $150,000. Those starter homes, those homes for people with low income that want a home, that want to be able to build personal wealth. And how do you do that? By getting a home, even on a mortgage, so that way you have a piece of land, a piece of property that then you can solidify, you can call your own, and then you can then make deals off of, because that will always have wealth. Well, you don't see that today. And like, as you pointed out in the intro coming into this too, when you're talking about millennials being saddled with college debt, credit card debt, all of the debt that we acquire just to survive because our wages are generally so low, the idea of owning a home is like, flying to Mars at this point. You ain't gonna get there unless you're Jeff Bezos.
Exactly, but when you think about with Europe, even Europe, they rent out their burial plots, like after 100 years, it's like, okay, make way for the next one. Many saying, hey, Americans, you just gotta realize you're gonna be renters now. But, what does that do to a society? You remember our parents, they bought our houses, what do you think's gonna happen with our generation?
Well, it's tough because, look, as you pointed out, rent's also skyrocketing too. One of the things that's driving that exodus to the interior and kind of a new American heartland is the fact that it's too expensive to live in the cities because rents is so high. And when you're talking about a group of people that are a generation that's forced to be renters or even live at home, that creates a very fluid situation because you can't own anything. You can't call anything yours. You're always going to be the victim to the landlord. And as we know in this country, most of the time when it comes to who's going to win in that fight, the renter or the landlord's always going to win because they have more power and more money and more lawyers behind them to twist the law and to be able to toss somebody out. And that's a scary thought moving forward. Now, it can be done. We can survive. You're seeing people kind of choose to live with their families longer. You're seeing families stay together, which we've seen in other countries around the world, like Japan. There's a big focus on, you have multiple generations living in one apartment, in multiple apartments in the same building.
We gotta leave it there tight because we're out of...
And there you go, my YouTuber friends. It's Scott Punk again with another video. And, I want to talk about, just a little talk about house prices and this is why I tell people there's always alternative ways to live. Look at all these apartment buildings they're building everywhere. They're expensive. You're looking at $1,400, $1,900 a month, and then you got to pay your utilities. And house prices house prices, like the guy says earlier on this RT News. Of course, I subscribe to their channel too. RT News is a great news to watch, but I'm not going to promote. I'm not doing it to promote their news, but just this segment that they're talking about, house prices are going through the roof. They get becoming expensive, and yet people are still killing themselves to pay these high mortgages and rent. Everywhere you go, they're building these places. And the thing is, when you so-called own a house, you don't really own anything. You know, you have people that rent, and then you have someone that owns a house and boast, they say, I own a house. You don't own anything. The only difference between a renter with a landlord and a person who has a so-called own a house, so-called, is you have a landlord as well. Your landlord's the bank. Don't pay your mortgage and see how quick they come take your house away. Just like a landlord can take away your apartment. Well, you have more rights in that part still. It'll take months to kick out a bad tenant, but they will come out eventually. But the point is, people are working hard to pay just to live somewhere, just to sleep somewhere. You're paying all this money just to sleep in a place like this. Are you serious? And it's kind of funny to think 2.5, 3 years ago, I was one of those people. I'd pay $1,500, $1,300 a month rent to live in a place like that. So even here, they're building more places everywhere you go. Apartment buildings everywhere. Are you kidding me? Why would you pay $1,500 to even $2,000 just to sleep? You work all day, 2 jobs, or even one job, even one good job, just to come home to sit down to watch TV all day. There's a better way than that. But it's so expensive, y'all. You know, I'm not trying to burn myself out. This is just my opinion again, like I said. You know, I said this, so I said, let me record this and just do a little talk about stuff like this. And I'll do other talk about, you know, anything to do with alternative living to show there's a cheaper, better way to live. And you can live life on your terms. I've always said that. Live life on your terms. You know, get a piece of land, build your own house, tiny house, whatever, and be mortgage free. And be free from the banks. And be free from the system and the government and all this crap. That's why I live the way I do. Try and get away from the system. You know, don't get me wrong, you'll never get away from the system 100%, but compared to the average Joe, you're a lot freer. Especially, you know, if you buy a little piece of land and you pay it off cash and you can build and live on it, even have your bus and your schoolie and live on there as well without even building anything. You even do that too. At least you don't owe no one anything. You're free. It's all about being free. That's what this alternative living is all about. Whether you live in a van, a bus, a schoolie, a coach, a shed, a garage, or even a little studio for yourself that you do it for yourself. And that's what I'm talking about. These things are getting expensive today, very expensive. And this is why people can't get out of debt. And you see, a lot of people, to believe this so-called American dream, you have to be asleep to believe it, like the guy says. So right. You have to be asleep to believe it. It's ridiculous. It's weird. I don't know how people can rent these places or work hard to live in these places. You know, like I said before, I did this before. I can't do this again. After I found this way, a simple way of living and living small, I can't go back to that crap again. Nah, I can't do that. Look at all these buildings. All these buildings I'm showing you. All these buildings are brand new buildings. They're building all these buildings for outsiders who's coming in because it's kind of cheaper for them. But you're gonna pay like an apartment like this or a flat like this. You're gonna pay $2,000 for this easy. Not to mention you're gonna pay your own utilities and everything. It's expensive. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. It's weird. Again, this is my opinion. That's my 2 cents. I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents and do a little talking like this and about this and what you guys think. Put down a comment what you guys think. Do you agree with me? You know, is American Dream still strong? Is it still there? You know, do you got to be asleep to believe this stuff? It's ridiculous. And then this way of living, you'll never be out of debt. But that's what the system tells you. Work hard, go to school, go to college. You'll get a good job, get a white picket fence, a brand new car, and this is what we are sold. We are sold this from when we were at birth. Even I was sold this, but I woke up out from the dream. I was dreaming about this too years ago. I woke up, and a lot of people have woken up as well to this. A lot of people are waking up to this, that this dream is bullshit. Don't get me wrong, you can have your dream, but don't call it the American dream. Call it your dream. That's how I live. My alternative living is my dream. Your way of living is your dream, guys. That's the way you got to do it. Well, I hope you watch this video all the way through and hope you get something from it. It's just my take on houses, prices, and why they're so expensive and they're getting higher and higher, and why people are buying into this nonsense and working hard to buy these houses or even rent these apartment buildings. Because at the end of the day, you don't own anything. Even when you buy a house, you know, and people boast, I own a house, I own 2 houses. You don't own a damn thing. Like I said, the only difference between you, one guy having a landlord, you still have a landlord, except the bank is your landlord. So we both have landlords. Whether you rent or you own, you both have landlords. Weird. How weird is that? How weird. And yes, you have that extra responsibility for yourself. Yes, you know, you can dig up your garden and do what you want more, but you still have to pay that mortgage and the taxes too. That's the difference. At least when you rent, you don't have to pay that tax. Ridiculous. I don't know. Am I making sense or what? Am I making fucking sense or what? And that's why I said to myself, I'm glad I chose to live alternatively. After living the way I have and became a minimalist type of thing, I can't go back into paying these rent, even for these apartment buildings that you see here. I'm gonna go and pay $1,500. Well, for these you're gonna pay $2,000 easy. $2,000 for this? Fuck you. I can park my van somewhere, sleep there out there, which I'm in my van right now as we speak, and park somewhere and see that beautiful skyline for free, while some fool is paying $2,000 a month for the same privilege to see the skyline. How weird is that? Anyway, keep it nice, keep it sweet, and keep it real. And I'll see you in the next video. What's your thought, guys? Let me know at the bottom, alright? Cheers. And as always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you love these type of DIY videos. And like I said, these are DIY videos. They're not professionally made. I'm too punk for that motherfucker to make them professional. I don't do that shit. Anyway, and remember, live life on your terms always, guys. You guys are so awesome. With that, I'm out. Cheers.